Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Shane Raymer. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Doing our first YouTube live in a while. It's been a long while, I might say. We're going to test this out, see how that works out tonight. Always fun to go live, take some questions and comments if anyone hops on. Today we have my buddy Nick Rucker back on the show. He's been on a couple of times. Episode 352, I think, was the latest one. Nick is a United States Army veteran of both Iraq and Afghanistan. He's also a country music writer and musician based out of Omaha, Nebraska. You can check Nick's music out at nickruckercountry.com. You can follow him on Instagram at ruckcountry. We're going to get to Nick in just a minute. Be sure to check us out at thatsoberguy.com. You can follow us on Instagram at That Sober Guy Podcast. Join us on Locals. We have an amazing men's local Sober Guy support group. You can help support us on there. It's kind of like Instagram meets Patreon, and help you stay accountable, have some fun in the process. And the community continues to grow each day. So shout out to all the Locals folks, my dudes out there. Love you guys. Appreciate the support and the community we're building together. And I'd love to have you join right now. If you're not already in there, you can download the Locals app, or you can go to thatsoberguypodcast.locals.com. And both those links are in the show notes. And then if you're looking for a meeting, my buddy Static and I, we host a meeting called Spiritual Armor every Monday on the Clubhouse platform at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And we also have a list of other online meetings for you if you go over to thatsoberguy.com/meetings, and you can check those out there. And once again, all the links from today will be in the show notes, so you can check those out. And let me just cancel this out here and bring my screen back up. Nick Rucker back on the podcast today. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you too. It's been since I was in Boise earlier this year since we did this. Yeah,
that's right. You were out there. You were out there for work last time, I think. Now you're not in Boise right now, right?
No, I'll be there in 2 weeks again. For some reason, work keeps gravitating me towards Boise, Idaho. So, hey, I'm okay with that. It's nice there right now. So,
yeah, it is nice. We took a trip out there, and we have some friends that moved out there, Nampa area, Boise, Meridian.
Yeah,
it was last July or maybe 2 Julys ago. Gosh, time flies by. We had a great time out there, man. Good people. A lot of things to do. We were in the sun. We went in the midsummer, I think, like July. So it was like 100 degrees, man. We did some river, playing in the river, some water slides, checked the area out. It was a good time.
Yeah. I think that's all there is to do in Boise is outside stuff. So, hey, that's okay. Yeah. A lot of hot springs and everything else. But the only setback for me is that I have yet to be there when I'm not working. So,
we haven't had much time to, hang out and kind of not work and just explore a little bit.
Right. Yeah. It's nice to look at mountains, but it's even better to actually drive up into them and enjoy them for what they are.
Dude, because you could ski. I think there's a ski resort, from what I remember, like 30 miles or 40 miles right back behind. So, summertime, you got all your water. There's actually, I don't know if you went down to the Boise River down there, but there's a spot where you can actually surf. Like,
really?
It's this I'm pretty sure it's a man-made area on the river. And it's like a natural, or I'd say natural, but man-made. You know what I'm saying? It's a wave. Yeah. People are down there surfing it. It's pretty awesome, man. And then in the wintertime, you can go snowboard or ski. So good spot. Right.
But you probably
everybody's moving there too.
Yeah, you probably could all in the same day. It's kind of like parts of California, I'm sure. Or dude, we went to Hawaii last year, and we were at the at sea level, and it was probably 90 degrees. And then you drive up Haleakala, the volcano, the shield volcano on Maui, and you get to the top, and it's an observatory, of course, because there's no light pollution, and it's probably like 20 degrees. And oh my gosh, like talk about just like, My nuts crawled back up into my body. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I can handle the cold, but it's not my favorite. I've realized over the years. Like I love Lake Tahoe. I mean, I grew up there as a kid going there. Did a lot of snow skiing, snowboarding, and I'll still do that. But for the most part, I am a much bigger fan of going to like a place like Lake Tahoe in the summertime and chilling on the lake and going paddle boarding or, swimming, hanging on the beach there. Yeah. Beautiful spot, but
oh yeah. You would probably hate Nebraska then in the wintertime because we're talking negatives.
I don't know how I'd do this old California boy out there. It'd be a rough transition for me, I think. I'd love to check it out though one day. Hopefully I get to. What you guys get tornadoes? What do you get out there like as far as weather wise?
I mean, just pretty much the regular stuff. We get tornadoes occasionally. I spent a long time, grow up in Missouri, kind of like in that tornado alley, lived there for 7 years. I had, was around, of course, during the Joplin tornado, the F5 tornado, that wiped out pretty much all of Joplin, Missouri. And, I don't, it's just life to me, I guess. But, we have rain and floods and just probably like everywhere else. But we do run into situations where it gets kind of hairy.
It's in us California people, bro, we would never last in Nebraska like a week because this reminded me when you said that the wind or the rain. I'm down in SoCal right now and in Huntington Beach, and it rained like out of the blue late last week. So about a week ago. And it was comedy, bro. Like even myself included, everyone's out on their balconies, like, "Oh, it's raining outside." Holy crap, it's rain because it doesn't rain here, like very rarely, And when it does, it's still fairly warm, It's not, and this is Southern California we're talking about too. Northern California a little different, cold, but yeah, man. So anyway, we could go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. So what part of like Southern California? I think I've only been to one really. Well, besides where you're from, what is it?
Vacaville.
Sacramento
Bay Area. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was in that San Francisco area earlier this year, in Martinez. And then the only other time I've been down in south, was to go to Fort Irwin, which is by Victorville. I think that's what it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
that's not too far. I want to say it's kind of central. Anyways, not too far from here, but
we could go off the rails here.
I know. I was going to say. So let me mention. It looks like and guys, welcome. There's a few of us who have logged in, or a few of you guys who logged in or who are watching, and I think that's awesome. This is just a quick recap, kind of a test on going live and doing the podcast in a live format and see how that rolls. And I'm already having fun with it, already liking it so far. So if anyone has questions or comments or anything, feel free, man. We'd love to interact, and we want you guys to be a part of the conversation as well. So you can chat in the chat box there, and I think it pops up as we're kind of talking along. So so what's been up with you, like as far as work goes? I know you've been traveling a bit. I know trying to stay sober, obviously. And, I know you've been playing some shows and stuff too. So give us a little recap, a little update on what's been up with Nick Rucker.
So I took a new position at work too. So I'm more in an even bigger manager role here, overseeing a couple of people in a new division for me. So it's been just trying to juggle that with home life and still traveling for work on a couple of weeks a month. And then the music stuff has really slowed down, and I think it's because I've slowed it down. And there have been times where I kind of regret doing that, but then there's other times where I'm getting ready to load up to go play a show at a bar, and I'm like, God, I hate doing this. So it is. And honestly, I'm getting to the point now where I think we even talked about it a little bit last time, where I kind of lost that love and feeling a little bit. And I was getting back to writing more. And so to me, I think that's what's going to happen. I've just been burnt a few times here recently by some things. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I want to put up with that anymore. Or like what's acceptable. etc. So with that, that's all kind of what's going on in my life. And then of course a 1-year-old is trying to fit him in there.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's a lot.
But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. The book and stuff like that has been doing okay. It's pretty doing well on the PTSD awareness side of Amazon. I think I'm going to crack the top 1,000 books, which for me, I don't know, maybe there's only 1,000. So who knows? Maybe that's 1,000 out of 1,001.
It's super exciting though. And like, I know, that you had been working on that for quite a while, and a lot of the book came from old journal entries and stuff, if I remember right. Was that
correct.
right?
Yeah, correct.
I mean, you compiled a lot of those old times and really revisited some of those experiences, which I think is amazing. And, I guess just for kind of a rundown of today's show, I had done a podcast a couple weeks ago, and it was titled, let's see, where did I put it in here? Afghanistan vets have exacerbated addiction and mental health symptoms. And it really made me think of you, and just I got a couple other buddies who are veterans, and then also who are also in like the first responder roles, police officers, firefighters. And man, I know that's just such a big topic in the recovery community when we talk about how folks deal with PTSD, how they deal with integrating back into regular society after being in a place like Iraq, in Afghanistan. And mental health seems to come up a lot in those aspects. And so I had done an article that someone sent over, and I kind of mentioned you. And so, hey, we said, let's hop on a podcast and talk about it a little bit. What's your take on all of that? I mean, have you experienced some of that firsthand being over in Iraq, Afghanistan? And then what are you I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the full episode, but was some of that stuff from the article that was sent over that I worked on, was that relatively accurate from the stuff that you've heard about or seen from your fellow soldiers and friends that are in the military?
Yeah, for sure, man. I felt like you were kind of speaking a lot of people's lives that I'm associated with, and whether or not that's me, whatever the case may be, the biggest thing, I think I sent you a link to an article recently too about how the guys that weren't a part of the war and weren't shooting bullets downrange and all that stuff were affected in having a greater deal of depression than the ones that were actually in the middle of it. And you have to look at it as like, well, that's a very larger percentage of people that were not doing a whole lot during the war. And there was very small 1% of the military that was doing a whole lot. So I would have to look and see per capita how many that is, regardless. I think we were all affected by it. And here's the research that I want to do and figure out is 2003, 2001, 2003, ramp up period, even into 2008, whenever I joined, it was a matter of we need bodies. We need people with a pulse that can go overseas and fill this body count that we need. And so what was happening is you're going through MEPS, the Military and Processing Station, with guys that are convicted felons and et cetera, whatever the case may be. And those are guys that they're sitting over there, not really doing any real proper screening. I remember I got questioned about like a credit card bill that I didn't pay one time. And it was just kind of like, I had to call and explain myself. And I'm like, okay, I don't even remember. But anyway, my question would be, even to the government, is like, during that time, what percentage of people were we bringing in with pre-existing mental health conditions to an extreme that this would ultimately trigger it and probably add to it? So if you look at, I can't blame all of my, mental health issues on just my military service, because I look back to how I was raised and the lack of father figure that I had, and the father figure that I did have was very like mentally abusive and verbally abusive, et cetera, et cetera. I'll stop saying et cetera, et cetera. I'll have to explain myself. But
that reminds me of like George Costanza from
Seinfeld.
When he said yada yada yada, I was like, and yada yada yada. That was like the ongoing comedy.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. Go ahead.
But I chalked it up to that, and dealing with that all growing up, going into the military, it was kind of like I wasn't hitting a point where it was like, oh my gosh, I need something to, or go to war or go to jail. That's one of our cadence that we do. And they talk about that more like during Vietnam. It's like, hey, you can either go to war or you can go to jail. It's your choice, whatever the case may be. But the fact that I was running from things that at the time was, let's say I had an alcohol problem then. It wasn't just 2 years of my life. I'd had an alcohol problem ever since the first time I remember getting blackout drunk whenever I turned 21. And so the simple fact that I was looking for something to get away from that, I was definitely looking for anything that would take me away from that situation. And so, I joined the military hoping to get that would be the answer. That would change my life. I'd always heard that, and luckily, I was mature enough that I stuck with it. That was definitely something that I'm thankful for. But the simple fact that, hey, then it's like a year later, I find myself in Iraq, and how do you process that? Because you think these guys that go over there. I mean, it's like, you compare it to like NBA basketball players. They're the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
And so you would expect them to know a shitload more than you about how to play basketball, right? But you take a dipshit kid at 24 who's still trying to figure his life out, and you put him in this situation, give him some training, whatever the case may be. But you go into Baghdad, Iraq, and your perception of what it's going to be compared to how it is, nobody knows, unless you've already been there. And so don't. Oh, go ahead.
Can I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm curious. Can you describe real quick like what that perception versus reality is actually like for someone like me who's never been to Iraq?
Right. So my perception of that, I remember back to 2003 watching on the news of guys getting blown up on camera, soldiers walking the streets of Baghdad, just filthy and look like they've been through 10 years of life in a year. And that was my perception. I thought I was going to die, like your likelihood of living compared to, hey, if you just stayed in the United States, goes down a little bit by going overseas and asking to be killed. But my overall idea, I remember getting off the plane and thinking, I'm going to get shot at as soon as I get off this thing. Like that's what war is like, right? Because we all read books. I grew up reading Fallen Angels, James O'Brien, or Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried. You think of Vietnam, you think of World War II, you think that's war to us. And that's how you're trained, right? Because you're training on tactics from World War II, from tactics from Vietnam, every war leading up to the war you're in, because we have yet to perfect that. We haven't lived it enough, right? So then 20 years goes down and we still can't fucking perfect it, but that's why people die. So regardless, my perception was this is going to be the most horrible part, year of my life, and I'm never going to see my mom again, and etc.
And what was the reality once you got there, though? Was that true, or was it partially true, or was it complete opposite, like what you expected?
It was complete opposite in some aspects, but then there was things that I didn't expect that happened that were startling. Let's just say that. And so just going over there and getting off the plane, and you're like, oh, well, this is the Army. I'm just in Iraq. It's just like being in Fort Riley, Kansas, except for I can't go, enjoy myself in the evenings because there's nothing to go enjoy yourself doing. And so really that was the big reality, was like, oh, this is like a duty station for the next year. Okay, we'll make this work. But then the first night you get mortared and you get bombed, which and I remember this like it was yesterday, sitting in my bunk. I was roomed up with a guy named Casillas. He was from somewhere in Texas, and he had been to Iraq a couple of times. And so we were sitting there, and all of a sudden I just hear boom, and I was like, what the fuck was that?
Oh, wow.
And so you go through training, stuff like that, to prepare you for situations like this, but you're never really prepared, I guess, for those kinds of situations. And so you're just kind of like, and I freaked out. Like, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? You know, looking at him, and he's like, I'm like running for a bunker. That's what you're trained to do, is go to a bunker. Yeah. And so he's like, hey, calm down, man. You know, like that just happens. It'll go away. And I'm like, that just happened. That just is
just normal.
That's life now, I guess. And so, you know, that was kind of like one of the eye-opening things, is like, I'm no longer safe. That for me, that was like, there is a very small likelihood that I could get killed. And I'm not one of the guys that's going out and asking for trouble. But I'm definitely one of the guys that's sitting here and can be one of the unlucky guys that doesn't go home because wrong place at the wrong time.
Timing. I guess timing is everything, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
To some extent.
Yeah. And I write about in the book a guy named Paul Anderson from Duwagnac, Michigan. He was one of those unlucky guys. And I remember that was pretty sobering for me during the deployment, just because I was like, that could be any of us. You know, there's thousands of us over here, and the likelihood of that happening is good at some point. You know,
what happened to Paul? Can you share a little bit about
it? So what happens whenever somebody dies is the internet, everything goes blank. So everything gets blacked out, and that's because they don't want anybody putting the news out to their families before the Army can put the news out to the family.
Yeah.
And so everything went blank. And so we were out without internet for like 3 days. So all of us were like pretty confused, unless you're like, know somebody pretty close.
Yeah.
But you know, we go, that was the night, that was October 1st, 2009 or 2008 when that happened. And I remember that like it was yesterday, but I was sitting in my room just like this on my computer, and I was watching something, and I just heard boom, boom, boom. Like it was pretty much back to back explosions, and it sounded like it was coming down. So in Iraq and Afghanistan, right, they have these things called T-walls, and they're concrete walls that go around the rooms and stuff like that. So if there's shrapnel that were to shoot into the like if something were to explode between the rooms, there's a better chance that you survive. And so what happened was that at the end of the row, like there's a very long row of rooms where these are trailer houses that everybody lives in. The mortars were coming down the line, they were shooting them continuously, and that guy just happened to be the unlucky guy. And you know, the stories could be what the stories are. Somebody said that he was on Skype with his wife, and the mortar went through the roof and killed him, and his wife was just hysterical trying to figure out what happened. And so that's what we were told. And then doing more research on who he was, because he wasn't anybody I knew personally. It was just sad. You read about people, and then you're like, oh man, this guy didn't deserve to die. You know, he was just over here. He was doing his job.
Totally. So let me ask you this then. It kind of backtrack a little bit to what I had asked you before about the perception of war, the perception of what's going on versus the reality of it. Do you what is your take, and maybe help me understand, and maybe help whoever happens to listen to this? We live in this time right now when everything is so polarized between media, social media. Everyone has an opinion. This constant just bombardment of news and media, and you don't even know what's real and what's fake anymore.
Right.
Like how accurate do you feel like it's still pretty accurate to say that a lot of the stuff that we see, it's so hard to tell like what if it's actually real or if it's not, unless you're actually there and experience it firsthand, like it's a really strange time that we live in. And I find it harder and harder to engage in any of that because you really just don't know if you haven't experienced it yourself,
Yeah. That's pretty, in one thing, and to reference the Marines, the soldier and the Navy corpsman that died recently, the 13 that died.
Yeah.
My problem with that was for one, why we pulled out of Afghanistan like we did. All of us that have been in the military or are in the military currently know the process for leaving anywhere. And so that was the questions that I was asking was like, how did this all go down? Like, were we just not filled in? Like, trying to get in contact with guys that I knew that were over there, and just, hey, what was going on? Ask the simple questions. But then we go to the simple fact that, hey, now we have to send more people back because we made a bad decision. Yeah. And now we feel bad because we're in a social media realm of our lives where, hey, you can't hide that nothing's going on in Afghanistan now, like, because you go on Twitter and the Taliban's posting like, hey, we're killing guys. So good job, America. We're wearing your shit and we're
driving your tanks and Humvees.
So dumb. And then, then we go to those kids get killed, all kids, right? So I think the oldest one was maybe 30. That's, to me, still a kid. I feel like,
absolutely,
in the military at least. And so my problem with that was, hey, we've had 20 years of war. There are guys that have been in the military for 20 years that are getting ready to retire that would have gladly raised their hand and said, hey, I will go back there to make sure everything is safe because, hey, I've been there 6 times. So let's send in the guys that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Let's not send in some kid from Nebraska who died from Omaha that he's 18 years old and he's got years and years and years of life ahead of him,
And he's fairly, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but like inexperienced compared to a guy who's been there 6 times. It's impossible. You're not going to know. Just like you said, when you first got there, you didn't know what to expect. He probably didn't know what the hell to expect either. You know what I mean? Just trying to do his job.
Right. You're told one thing and then it's another. Right. So you go in there expecting the Wild West and you kind of run into Walmart along the way. And so I think those kids, unfortunately, were probably, just naive and in there and like just trying to do the right thing and felt like that was the right thing to do. And, it's sad. It's too bad that it had to be that way. But that is honestly the nature of the beast. It is what it is. And that's how it kind of goes down. And people like myself sit here with the knowledge of being in the military and say, we could have done better. And then people outside of the military, like that don't understand it. And they maybe just kind of see it as like, oh, that's just war. That's what happens, And the right questions probably aren't getting asked. And now it's all swept under the rug. I haven't heard anything about it in a few weeks. So I don't know. I don't want to compare apples to apples, but there's other things going on in the United States that like this should have taken precedence over rather than, oh, here's another thing that's just going on and that'll be gone in a week and we'll be back to our lives on TikTok and Instagram and bullshit. So
you have to keep it flooded and keep us constantly on the new cycle, what's the new thing, So it's and that's kind of what I was getting at before, like with the polarization of everything and just this constant fear. Like I always say, we don't, we really have a two pandemics, in my opinion. We have a couple. We have addiction and alcoholism, which is the basis of this show. We also have fear pandemics, and we also have a victimhood pandemic. So just combine all those 3 together, you got a melting pot of like just complete shit show, and 2, real quick, that's actually to just so I don't forget, that article that I talked about 2 weeks ago that I mentioned to you, that's kind of what the basis of the article is about. Kind of what you were touching on is, the situation in Afghanistan and veterans and then active duty over there, and everybody seeing what's happening. 20 years of work kind of down the tubes, and lives lost, and endless amounts of resources and money, and all, just a crazy time. And so many are pissed off by it, to put it bluntly, and frustrated, and they don't, I think, confused too. I think to some extent, like what the hell is going on, and so that I think that could lead to, we talk about more addiction, mental health, suicides, all of that stuff combined. It's like, how do you deal with a lot of this stuff? Are you seeing that too, in kind of your circle, like just people kind of upset, like, what the hell, man? What are we going to do?
Yeah, man. I've got a private group on Facebook that I just kind of hang out and chat with buddies that I've been in the military with. And, we make fun of it at times in all the situations, and that's just the military way of dealing with things. And I think that's just a guy way of dealing with things. Hey, let's make jokes about it. So it's just who we are. And we're all asking the same questions, in our own little way, is what the fuck? Like, and why aren't they sending guys that know what they're doing? And so even with, got a lot of my friends that are in the military, they don't have to say anything. They don't even have to call me or anything like that. But you see certain things they post and you're like, oh, that's a pattern that I went through at one point. Or talk about, you're just kind of like, man, there's that irrationale coming out that's because of drinking or using or whatever the case may be. And, and I texted you a couple weeks ago, and just whenever we were talking about this, and I said, man, I'm going through a low point, and I didn't think that I would hit that, but I was questioning, like, am I a good person? Like, am I doing the right thing? The overwhelming feeling of like drinking was like creeping back in. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm like, I remember the last time this started to happen, that was like, I need to get to a meeting like now, because I need to be around people that are thinking the same way I am. Because obviously I'm being conditioned to think that it's okay to drink again. And I need to get away from that. And that's what social media does. That's what everywhere that I associate with, even, it's like, oh yeah, you can drink. That's just, I never had a problem with it. It's like everybody has a problem with it. I'm sorry, but
no, it does that though too. I mean, I have those thoughts at times. Like, I have 8 years without alcohol, and there are times when I think like, I wonder if I would be able to have a beer, still, and just have one, and be able to control it. And I think the good thing about that is that I'm able to recognize the thought and not try to stuff it down and like share it, like right now, share it with you, share it on the podcast. And I don't try to deny that I have those thoughts, because I think that's, for me at least, when I could get myself in trouble. Like, I used to do that in the beginning. Like, why are you having those thoughts? Like, you shouldn't be thinking that. You can't drink, and that's true. I don't want to drink, but like, I think it's pretty natural. And especially when we're stressed out too. Like, I've said plenty of times, like, man, I just wish I could numb out right now. And I don't, but that's just how I feel in the moment. I'm not going to do that. But I'll call someone or I'll talk about it. And just like you told me that day, you texted me, man, it's kind of rough right now. I think I said, dude, you need a chat, like, all good, hit me up, whatever. And, we planned on doing this, but a lot of guys, maybe they don't have that, or they don't know to do that. So it's like, how do we convey that message to them that, like, it's okay to reach out for help? There's no weakness in, asking or admitting, there's actually strength in it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think recently too, there was somebody who reached out to me and saying like, hey, I'm having this issue, and I'd like to get sober and blah, blah, blah. And I see that you're doing all this stuff, and you've heard it before. You've heard it. I've heard it, and you're just kind of like, well, yeah, let's meet up. I'll meet you at this park and we can chat. And then like, nobody has to know. Like, you're kind of like that chick in high school that nobody really likes, but she'll give them the time of day. And so, so we set that up, and then like, it was the day before, and it got canceled. And I was just like, hey, I know that guy. I was drunk whenever I made that commitment, and then now all of a sudden it's not so good. And so
been there.
There's definitely, trying to convey that to people, and saying, like, guys like myself, guys like you, that, we struggle at times, but it's our self-talk that is going to bring it out of us. Like, as far as, like, if I start saying on a consistent basis that, hey, I could use a beer right now, jokingly, that's neuroassociative conditioning, right? You're conditioning your body to start those cravings up again, even, and say, hey, that wouldn't be too bad. And then all of a sudden, the actual reality of, like, tasting an IPA starts coming back into the back of your mind. And you're like, man, that would be good. Well, that's what my brain says. And I think that was what was going on. And I remember looking back at those times and thinking, man, I was sure joking around about alcohol a lot. And like, what the fuck am I doing? And so obviously can't always take it completely out of your vocabulary, but, like, let's treat it as what it is. Like, I wouldn't joke about cancer with somebody, so let's treat it like that.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? You just reminded me too. At the same time, and I'm totally vibing. I'm on the same page as you with that too. I think there is a coping mechanism that relates to just what you said about dudes who have either been in the military, they have PTSD, first responders, like I mentioned earlier. There's a coping mechanism of finding comedy in shit that's serious sometimes. So whether it's like that, like first responder, PTSD type of stuff, or even the PTSD that maybe we suffered because we were jackasses and made terrible decisions back in the day, and we have regret and shame and that kind of stuff that we have to deal with. In talking about it, it helps to filter some of it out. And then, like, there's a lot of things that I look back on that were somewhat serious that I just kind of laugh about now because they were it was just dumb. Like, it was so funny and just stupid at the same time that I just, like, otherwise I could beat myself up over it, So it's like, man, let's find some fun in it. There's no sense in, everyone thinks being sober or not drinking is, like, lame, or at least a lot of dudes. I did at first, but it's really, man, it's like the best decision I ever made in my life, besides my kids and wife and finding Jesus, man. That was amazing too, of course. But it's good stuff being sober. It's not boring.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think I use it now as hey, how can I use what I'm doing to make other people's lives better? And so, being around teenage kids now, you can definitely see where, hey, if I had been drinking, how impressionable that would be on somebody their age. Yeah. And so that's, to me, kind of, like, pretty important, like, because I already have kind of a complex whenever it comes to that, just because of how I was raised as a SEP kid. Yeah. And so there's a lot of already reconditioning of my brain that I have to do in order to not be a piece of shit. Let's just say that. And so it's typically always on overload. But I think to, kind of come full circle with all that, with the military, with everything, the simple fact that, hey, it's mental health, right? In general, it's not, at some point you decided, or you were in a situation where it was a high stress, consistent situation where, hey, I don't have time to take care of myself right now. I have to deal with this because it's the life that I'm living at the moment, right? Yeah. And so you look at, hey, doing anything for a year straight, doing anything for 9 months straight, you're going to come out on the other end with some new habits that are either good or they're bad. Oh yeah. And we had, out of the probably 112 guys that went over to Iraq with us, 10 of them have committed suicide.
10?
10. Yeah.
Damn.
And or died in certain weird ways. There was some questionable stuff, or one in prison for shooting a guy. Like, there's just, to me, that's where my question went back to, hey, what was the mental health stats like whenever we were, did we do good mental health checks whenever we were bringing guys in? How could you? Like, I would have lied to get into the military. So you got to think that everybody else is too, right? Yeah. So in other words, there may be some
I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but pre-issues before coming in. And if you're not screening properly, and those issues don't come out, or they're just blatantly not, being truthful about it, you add on a high stress, high, situation where there's a lot of things going on, and that just adds to it. And then go back home and, man, it's like a time bomb waiting to go off,
Right. Yeah. They, you just I call it mental health debt. So I'm just going into debt more and more. And so, how it is with money, you get too far behind, all of a sudden it just feels like I'm never going to get out of this. And so you just keep spending more to feel better, because that's already the bad habit. So what do? I just keep not fixing it more to just, hopefully it just goes away if I ignore it long enough.
Yeah, exactly. Just not think about it.
Yeah. But ultimately, I would say to somebody that is even trying to get to better themselves now, that's a veteran or is having issues with like what's going on in Afghanistan or has recently, it's going to do you a debt of gratitude to get in and talk to someone. I see a civilian mental health professional, and just going in and talking once a month, even, it has helped me a great deal, because it's just somebody that's not in my life on a regular basis that I can go in and be like, and then this happened, and then what the hell, like, what am I supposed to do? Where's my dad?
Good.
So that, to me personally, that helps a lot. It just has somebody that's, not in the situation can shoot it to you straight and say, hey, you're right or you're wrong. But don't go in there being manipulative, because they'll figure it out too. So
yeah, I'm with you. I still talk to a counselor who, and Jess and I, my wife, have both done, quite a few different sessions with a couple different counselors, like marriage counseling, therapy. And then I still see one myself occasionally, who I started to see right when I got sober. Actually, she kind of helped me through that process, and she's awesome. But what's funny is you hit it on the head. A lot of the time when I meet with her, she barely talks. It's my ass doing all the talking. I'm like dumping everything, and then all she really does is like ask me a question to prompt it. And so I finally like realized after a while, I'm like, man, this is like therapeutic. It's not like, it's not so much that I'm in there trying to figure out the answers. I mean, it takes time. You're not going to get, you're not going to fix it overnight, but like just the fact of being able to dump it and like let it out. And that's what a lot of dudes go to meetings for, right? We go to meetings so we can talk, so we can fellowship, so we can get plugged in and just relate to other people who have been through maybe some of the things that are similar to what we've been through, because isolation is the worst. And for me, that's what this shit did, is it isolated me for especially the last couple of years. And some people don't come back from it. So if you got questions or comments too, I know there's a couple of us in here. It's weird. I can't see who's in here. And I'm still trying to learn this interface, but it seems to be working okay. But if you do have questions, comments, feel free to drop them in the box, and we'll get to. We got about 10, 15 minutes left. What else, man? Anything else you want to bring up or kind of jump on?
Yes. I was thinking, in referring back to, even if somebody is in that kind of like period of I guess purgatory or whatever you want to call it, and saying like, I don't know whether I want to get good or get better, or if I want to just go back to the old ways, because this is a shit show that we're living right now. And so I would say to you, somebody that's, sitting there on the fence, find something that's going to give you a reason not to, for one. And for me, that's even like, if you have kids, it's easy to sit there and say, hey, if my kid got hurt right now, do I want to be drunk and not be able to handle something that was going on? Or do I want to be in a situation where, society starts going to shit and I've got to get over a drinking problem in the process of trying to defend myself and my family? I don't want to be the thing that's more, interesting for me than actually doing what my job is to do, is to take care of my family. And so that keeps me pretty much grounded as far as like, all right, dipshit, like you're not going to go out and buy beer and get drunk because this would happen, this would happen, this would happen. And that, in that sequence of events. So looking at somebody and saying that, I mean, I think you would probably agree. Those are some pretty good things to.
Oh yeah.
That even you, I know you're all about God and family and like taking care of both of those things. And so I'm sure you agree with that 100%.
Absolutely. I think that you make a really good point in finding your why. Like we're all looking for a why. So why? And I just was working with the dude who reached out recently. And I've just been keeping in contact with him. I think he has 7 or 8 days now. And, I was trying to explain that to him, like, and give him examples like, well, here's your why. Here's why you don't want to go drink today. You're not going to force anybody to do anything, but I think by helping to suggest that, and when we can find that, it helps, but we also got to do it for ourselves too. I know I had to do it for me, even though that sounds kind of self.
So here we go. He's coming back. It's loading. So yeah, just to reiterate kind of what Shane was even talking about was the importance of of getting that why. If you look at, say you're going to buy something, right? You look at the vehicle you're going to buy. And you write down, I want a Ford Raptor, whatever the case may be. Well, you write down your why. Why do I want it? Well, it will help me haul stuff. I do a lot of that. It'll help me get things done more around the house, whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden, that why turns into the reason why you get the truck or the reason why something else happens. And so that's where I believe it's pretty important to come up with that why for yourself, because it's going to give you that fuel to keep going or to fix what the problem is.
Okay. Did that work?
That worked.
Shoot, man. Good job taking the lead. I like it, Nick. Thank you. I actually had to turn. I had to like roll the dice, and I was like, okay, it was a weak signal, and so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna have to do it. I had to click off my internet and then click it back on real quick, and it actually stayed on still, so that's good. So,
nice.
Any case, yes. Thank you for picking that up, and let's a quick time check here. We got about 8 minutes before we wrap up, but I like that advice, man. Just staying connected, finding your why, getting plugged in. Like I know that one of the things that we do, I'll put this the little ticker up right now. We have a men. Are you in this group, by the way? Are you in the locals group? Dude, you got to jump in if you're not. I'll make you an admin.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I follow you on locals. I haven't used the app for a little bit, but there's so many different apps, and I'm always trying to like, how does this one work, and how does this one work? Yeah. And I'm just like, dude, you wear these watches, and these are things of the devil, because it's just like burn, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I took it off yesterday and put it in my drawer because I was just like, I can't get anything done. Like, if
Oh,
that
you
thing's
get all your
progress.
alerts on there. Yeah, I see. I had I'm on Clubhouse too for the Monday meeting we do, and I had to turn the alerts off on that. I turned them off on Telegram. I turn them off on Instagram. I have the icon on local so I can see when it pops up, but it doesn't alert me because same thing, dude. It was just like, it's overwhelming. You're just constantly boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But dude, I would love for you. I'll make you an admin in there. And you can have a little spot in the locals men's group. It'd be great to get you in there. I think there's over like 400 people in there, but I've started to kind of shift it to just trying to make it like a men's group, like just a men's community where we're holding each other accountable, responsible, having some fun. We're able to reach out and ask for help and just connect with each other and stuff too. So you see it on the ticker below there. And anybody out there listening, if you're just listening on the audio version today, you can just go to that sober guy podcast.locals.com. You can download the app in either the Google store or iTunes store too, but it's a good little spot to stay connected.
Yeah, and you'll definitely have to shoot me the stuff to your Monday meetings. Because I think I would benefit from that. Just something to look forward to. I'm usually on the road on Mondays, so that's perfect time. I always get some peace and quiet. So
have you been on Clubhouse at all?
No. This is I hear you talk about these things all the time, and then I'll randomly be doing something, and I'm like, hey. It's like I forgot to close the garage door. That's what it's.
I feel you.
Shame.
Well, there's so many platforms too, like you mentioned, and my buddy Static actually introduced me to Clubhouse. Just, I think we started this meeting 3-4 months ago, maybe it's been 5 now. But man, it's really an awesome platform, and it's all audio. So you create a little profile, right? And then like Static and we host a room called Spiritual Clubhouse on Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And it's not 12-step related directly, but there's a lot of 12-step people that come in to the meeting. There's a lot of people just looking, that just have some experience in recovery, and we help facilitate it. And then what you do is you get a call, and it's only audio. There's no video involved in it. And so there's a lot of, and there's all kinds of topics too. It's not just a recovery platform. There's business, there's book writers clubs. I mean, there's all kind of cooking, anything you could think of. People have a room in there where there's people joining in a live meeting setting and sharing, different ways they do things, sharing experience, all kinds of stuff. So you should check it out and hop in one Monday. Even if you're just multitasking, you can just sit and listen in almost like a podcast while you're getting stuff done.
Yeah, for sure. I've been looking for something like that in general, and I've thought about starting one too for veterans groups.
You should, dude. That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
And that's more because it'd be like, hey, if you are looking for somewhere to go, here's where you can go, where it's kind of a safe place, I guess you would say. So that would be something. I'm just trying to find the bandwidth. I can only handle so much. And then you throw other things and you're just kind of like, I need to just get better at managing my time, and everything would be okay.
You and me both. And so not to add more, but I just will take away with this. Static and I talked a little bit about you in particular, and then about he's really an advocate for veterans, and has family who served. And I try to help out as much as I can on the show, is giving resources to veterans, first responders, all that. Maybe that's something offline we can chat about a little bit more, is getting you involved in what we've been talking about, because I love supporting, Static loves supporting, but we also can't speak from firsthand experience like you can. You can speak directly from that to veterans, to active duty people, and we would love to kind of do something maybe along those lines to provide some some other platforms. So
for sure. Yeah. And for me to come into something that's already kind of established would be better for me. Just because I've tried to get these things going and all that, but definitely, for sure, I'd love that.
Why don't we start with this, and I'll reach out to Static and let him know. But if you're interested, sometimes we have guests come on and speak, and they kind of lead off the meeting. Maybe you can do that in the next couple of weeks or something on a Monday. We'll get you plugged in on there, and then we'll have whatever topic, probably be something veteran related, and then and spiritual armor, of course, and then you can share a bit if you're up for it.
Yeah, I'm good next Monday, so let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, let's it might I'll get some dates
or whatever. Yeah.
I'll get some dates together and then we'll figure it out. But looks like Greg said shout out from the 831 right on, Greg. And then Jay, what's up, Jay? I know Jay from our locals community. He said it's awesome. I always get great feedback when I post on there, and it feels good to share feedback with other fellows on there. Jay, how many days you got, Jay? I think Jay's got like at least 40 days or something, 45.
Oh shit.
I'm guessing. Yeah, dude, he's doing good, dude. There's a few dudes in there that are doing awesome and just staying sober and trying to stay connected. So appreciate you guys.
I'm downloading locals now because if I don't, I'll forget. So here we are.
just turn your alerts off, or just do like the icons, and then it's not so overwhelming. And then you can just check it when you remember. But
yeah, for sure.
So let's we got a couple minutes, man. Let's start to wrap up, man. Anything you want to add in? And I appreciate you coming on today and just hanging out and checking it. Oh, Jay's got 65, by the way, dude. Congrats, bro.
Yep.
That's
close to 69.
69.
Yeah.
Dude, that's just
hey, isn't it funny though? And Jay, if you're listening, as it goes on even farther, after like the third year, you're just kind of like, how many years was that? 1, 2. Okay. We're on year 3 now. Okay, cool. You just kind of lose track because it just gets behind you. And then there are days where you're like, oh shit, how many days was that again? Because so you'll know once you get up to that 1 year mark and past, you're kind of it becomes there's no finish, there's no finish line in this, right? It's just more of it's just a constant work every single day. And I think even just wrapping that up, hey man, Jake, congrats. That's awesome that you got 65 days, because there's a lot of people that can't get past 2 days. So it says a lot. Just stick with it. And I know if you know Shane and you're in that locals group and all of that, there's a lot of good people out there that are willing to give up their time and sacrifice their time to help you. So yeah, good stuff, dude. That's what it's about. Greg said 970. I'm assuming it's 970 days, maybe. I'm guessing, or is it 970 area code? I don't know. I think it's probably 970. So congrats on that if that's the case, Greg. Yeah. Yeah, man. So thank you again for coming on, trying out this live stream thing. We'll have to do it again. It's been fun. My goal with this is to actually, I would love to do a daily show, in the morning time, like a live stream type, just for an hour or something. And it's the bandwidth thing though, it's a big commitment, and we all got things going on and work and stuff too, but we'll see what happens. If it paid, that would be better. Just a little bit better.
A little bit.
Yeah. Just a little bit of compensation there. But yeah. So yeah, thanks for having me on, buddy. It's always great to kind of just, it's always a refresher for me to come on here and just talk and chat with somebody who knows what's going on. Been down that road before, and you're about 3 years ahead of me. So I'll catch you one day. I'm just kidding. That'll never happen. But yeah, this is awesome. I always appreciate it. I'm always thankful. It's always a breath of fresh air. So
yeah, well, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on the podcast. It's good to connect with you again and see you, guys. If you want to follow Nick, you can get his book Time Cap. That's in the show notes. Also follow him at Ruck Country, and then nickruckercountry.com. And then I put the Facebook link in there as well, and the old podcast. So Nick Rucker, thanks again, man, for coming on the show, bro. Appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy.